Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Thursday. It's February 22nd. It's 2024. We have a 10-game NBA slate to talk about here on today's podcast, joined by my good buddy, Keith Eister. Eys819. Keith, we had a week off. I mean, there was NBA All-Star stuff. There was plenty of college betting going on in the RG Discord. We had this NASCAR thing. But for NBA, we had a week off, and I feel very refreshed. From the NBA mindset, I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna say that I'm exhausted. Daytona week was like 10 times longer than it needed to be because of all the weather. But I keep thinking today is Tuesday. We're recording on Wednesday night. I keep thinking today is Tuesday. I'm way behind on my like NASCAR stuff for the week because of the rain delay and being at the track until almost 1 o'clock in the morning on Monday. But hey, man, how's it going? How was your All-Star break?
All-Star break was good. It was great to get a little bit of time off. I think you're burying the lead a little bit. It was a pretty outstanding time away from NBA for you. That little NASCAR thing you mentioned, I think you got to tell the people what went on. I know you had a nice score. I believe one of your subscribers took down $500,000. Split the Millie Maker in two. So give us a little of those NASCAR goods, because that you're underselling that a little bit, sir.
Keith, you know I hate promoting myself. I complain about it all the time. But yeah, I had a good weekend. I took down the FanDuel big tournament for 50 grand. So that was huge. Just a great weekend in general. Took down the tournament on Thursday night for the duels. Had a really good truck race on Friday night. And I mean, Daytona, like I had teams that were there at the end of the race on DraftKings and the Millie Maker. So like it was a great race. Roster construction still king. What I'm doing is working. I mean, this is now 4 years in a row we have had a subscriber take down the big tournament over there on DraftKings, and super pumped. Gator fan, Florida person, just super pumped. Just in general. So, but
also
yeah,
had the outright. Forgot to mention that. You had William Byron outright. Told you on that. Had a couple others. You had Logano and Chastain also written up. It looked a whole lot like either one of those guys could win the race at any point. Also, so you were just all over it as usual, man. We all know you're the NASCAR GOAT. Just got to make sure that any newer listeners might not know. They definitely need to know.
Yeah, I mean, we are on it. So the Running Hot podcast that I do with RotoDoc, it's 3 victory lanes in a row we've hit to start the season. So no pressure for Atlanta this weekend. But yeah, we had the outright, and man, I had some top 10s that were looking juicy, like big top 10s, like plus 400 top 10s that were looking really juicy there before that last wreck. But anyway, we got basketball's back. I'm a little pumped that basketball's back, and then I'm a little like, all right, how's the injury reports going to go?
Right.
It's like even this slate, like we have a lot of like, certain things of people being out and in, and minutes restrictions should be a little bit better depending on like who we're talking about. But I mean, even like one of the biggest players on the slate, Donovan Mitchell, definitely going to big time questionable, and like it could go either way. So I think he's sick or something. So anyway, too much All-Star break fun, I guess, for Donovan Mitchell. But really quick, before we jump into talking about this 10-game slate, did you watch the dunk contest? Did you watch the 3-point contest? I love watching the people complain about the All-Star game. Like, who cares if they scored a gazillion points? Who cares? Did you watch that stuff? What are your thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, it's I watched it because it's basically all that's on. I've dabbled in college basketball more than I typically do. Definitely had some squad rides. So Duke hit for us tonight. That was beautiful. The All-Star shenanigans, like it is what it is. Like I'm not super into it. The dunk contest, I would say it's not up to expectation. Like I agree that the 3-point and the dunk contest like should be like the stars of the weekend. The All-Star game is what it is. It's been that way forever. Like you can't risk injury in that type of a format, things like that. So I get why that's like that. Look at NFL's All-Star game, even baseball. Like it's hard to put on like a great show of the actual game, but the side contests like the 3-point and the dunk contest, I feel like there's they should be doing a little bit more. The dunk contest was pretty disappointing. McClung was great, but nothing really outside of that. Jaylen Brown was semi-name in that, but I mean, not impressive to me. So a little lackluster on the dunk contest in particular.
It's just been downhill since that Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine battle. I feel like the dunk contest, like we need to revamp the dunk contest. Like I don't know how you do it. I would assume it's like money, just in general. But I mean, let's make the dunk contest better. The 3-point contest was great. I mean, we had big names in the 3-point contest. It came down to the wire. The Steph contest was awesome. It was really cool for her to put her skills out there and like show everybody that like, hey, you know, they can do it too. So just I mean, 3-point contest was great. The skills challenge was fun to watch. Dunk contest was terrible. Then an Orlando Magic guy won, and it was still terrible. All right. You just watch the dunks from this year and you go back and you watch dunks from like 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like Keith and I grew up in like the Vince Carter dunk contest like years. Yeah. Like, yeah, and just it needs to get better. But yeah, I mean, Richie, I would even be down with that. Bring in pro dunkers and call it a day. That's better than what we watched this year. Let pro dunkers showcase their talents and like put on a show if these pros don't want to do it. NBA guys don't want to do it. So I mean, I'm in for any of that stuff. But what we're putting out there right now, product wise, like the dude that won the dunk contest has played like 2 games in the NBA, and he's won back-to-back years, and he hasn't done anything spectacular. He can jump, and it's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. All right, let's talk hoops. Brooklyn at Toronto. What's up, YouTube? What's up? Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday night. Thanks for hanging out. Brooklyn at Toronto, 231.5. Toronto 2-point favorite. Toronto, nobody on the injury report. Whitehead remains out for Brooklyn. Doesn't matter. He really hasn't played minutes in a while. Let's go Brooklyn here. First, what do we think here on the Brooklyn Nets? We got, Ben Simmons expected to be playing close to normal minutes. Sharp is back. He came back right before the All-Star break. Kind of hurt Claxton a little bit. Claxton was absolutely smashing with Sharp out. And now, like, we look at the last 4 games, and he hasn't topped 30 minutes in the 4 straight. So, I mean, what are we doing here with the Nets?
Yeah, the Nets are a really tough team to want to buy into right now. The Simmons thing, like you mentioned, are we sure that he's going to play full minutes? Is he going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? So that's definitely an interesting dynamic. It's a really good matchup against Toronto. We've talked several times about Toronto's defense just falling off a cliff since the trade deadline, or well before the trade deadline, since they traded Anunoby and Siakam. It's a good spot to attack, but Brooklyn is kind of a mess to figure out right now. Claxton not playing as many minutes. Ben Simmons, is he on a minutes restriction? Maybe not. If he's not, is he going to play 30 minutes? I still don't even know if that's the case. So Nets are a tough team right now. I think you can take shots on Bridges for ceiling. I think Cam Thomas can just go off scoring any night, so he's fine. But we've got a 10-game slate here. I'm going to be pretty picky. I don't have a ton of interest in Brooklyn. If I might even go Simmons over either the 2 guys in the 7K range. I think they definitely have a higher ceiling, but Simmons can get that like cheap triple-double where he scores 10 points and grabs 11 boards and 10 assists or something like that. So Simmons at 5,600, if he's going to play 25, 26 minutes, I'm on board with that, but not a ton of interest overall in this Brooklyn team.
Well, I mean, they're a very healthy team now. Lonnie Walker's back. Finney Smith's back. Dennis Smith Jr., Schroeder, like they're all back. They're all healthy. I mean, so even if Simmons plays 25 minutes instead of 28 minutes, like it's still enough to impact it. Sharp impacts Claxton. Just at these prices, I think we'll start to see the Brooklyn prices come down with everybody healthy. And I think at these prices, Ben Simmons is the only person that I think I take here from the Nets. And like, I don't even trust him. I don't trust anybody from the Nets. But Ben Simmons at 5,600, playing 25 minutes is someone that can score 40 fantasy points. So, I mean, he's the guy that I want to take shots on if I'm taking any shots here on Brooklyn. The Toronto side of this one, I mean, kind of a new look Toronto team that we saw a little bit down the stretch right before the All-Star break. Give me your thoughts here on the Raptors.
Yeah, another tough team we're just kind of trying to figure out what the rotation is going to look like. Mentioned the guys they traded away, but they've also added like Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown into the mix here. So another tough rotation to figure out here. Scotty Barnes always has a ceiling, I think. I don't love the matchup here against Brooklyn. They don't play particularly fast. RJ Barrett, I think you could take shots at 6,900. Prefer him in a more up-tempo game, but his rebounding is notably up since coming over to Toronto. So I do think he still has somewhat of a ceiling, and Quickly's kind of fine. I don't think I would play more than one of these guys in any lineup, but I think Barnes, Barrett, and Quickly are in play.
Yes. I mean, I don't really have much to add. I agree with pretty much everything you said. Like, Quickly, he's almost 7K. Barrett's almost 7K. Like, I think these guys are projected in the 35 point range. I mean, we have projections up for tomorrow because it's the slate after the All-Star break, and we have Quickly around 35 and we have Barrett around 35. I mean, that's not great value for their current prices on a 10-game slate. Yeah, obviously there's some ceiling there, sure. But overall, I don't see a ton of upside for this game. And this game is a 231.5 with a 2-point spread. Like, we should be a little bit more pumped about this game, but you just have two teams that have massive rosters and play really deep on both sides. So it's just hard for me to get excited about playing Toronto or Brooklyn. Again, my favorite from Brooklyn, probably Simmons. My favorite from Toronto, I think it's Barrett. Like you said, his rebounding is way up. When he gets hot, he can have those games where he shoots, 5, 6 threes and hits half of them and, puts up a couple layups and stuff. So he's someone that can score 25 and get 10 rebounds. And if he adds a steal or block or assist, he's someone that can get over 40, 50 fantasy points. So I think it'd be Barrett. We move from that game to this one, 247.5 total. Detroit at Indiana, 11.5 point spread for Indiana. On the Detroit side, Grimes is doubtful, Stewart's questionable, and then on the Pacers side, Nesmith is out and Jalen Smith is questionable. Cade Cunningham was someone that we saw come back, a little bit of limited on minutes on the back-to-back, but I think we see Cade Cunningham 35 plus minutes in this game. I wanted to start with him because the Pacers do struggle quite a bit against guards. Outside of him, I mean, Duren, especially if Stewart ends up sitting again, he doesn't have a lot of people he's worried about losing minutes to. I think Fontecchio, Thompson, Ivy, they're all okay. I think this is a spot I really want to invest in, Cade and Duren.
I like the Cade call. I'm definitely on board with that. I think there's definitely room for the minutes to rise here. It's a fast-paced game. That it feels like a Cade game more than a Duren game to me. The Isaiah Stewart thing I think is huge. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but he definitely limits the upside of Duren. And I think Fontecchio is the other guy he's going to impact. I have a lot of interest in Fontecchio. The role looks pretty good here in the first couple of games with Detroit for Fontecchio. I am concerned that they run Stewart at the 4 a little bit just to get him on the court. Duren's probably going to get his 30 minutes. I think Fontecchio's upside is limited if Stewart is in this game. If he's out, I think Fontecchio is a fantastic value at 4,500. I'll probably play some either way, just because he's been shooting quite a bit here with Detroit. And it's an awesome matchup against Indiana. So 4,500 for Fontecchio, assuming that he starts again. Stewart, we expect to be limited here, even if he is able to play. I would prefer him to sit to target guys like Fontecchio and Duren, but I will probably take shots on Fontecchio either way. Cade, I agree, is the ceiling play though.
Yeah, I feel like Cade is still kind of priced from being out, missing some time. This is a guy that should probably be over 8K. He has that 8K ceiling. I mean, there was times this season he was in the high 8Ks. I mean, he has 50 plus point upside. And yeah, I mean, one of the, Bojan being gone is definitely going to open up a couple extra shots for Cunningham too. So watch the Stewart news. I think what you were talking about makes sense. Do you think Thompson loses minutes to Stewart, or do you think Thompson is the guy that's just going to play 28 to 30 minutes just in general here?
So that's what I don't know. Do they feel comfortable with Fontecchio at the 3? I mean, he's definitely played plenty on the wing. I think they would be okay with that. So yeah, I think one of Thompson or Fontecchio probably loses some minutes here. I don't know which one it is. I definitely feel better about the Fontecchio call if Stewart is out, but it's looking like he's going to play in this one. So there's definitely risk. I'll still take shots on Fontecchio, I think, though.
Yeah, the ankle sprain. extra week off with the All-Star break. I will say I was looking through like game flow stuff when I was doing research for the slate earlier today, and they used Thompson more at the 3. So I think if you're worried about someone losing minutes, it's Fontecchio. But I mean, you would think he starts, and I mean, they can use Stewart at the 5 too. It's just really interesting to see how Detroit's going to kind of run this lineup with. I mean, I don't expect Evan Fournier to get consistent minutes, but we should mention like right before the All-Star break, he came back and he played 25 minutes in both games. So it's something to watch because he's still almost minimum salary.
Yeah, Wiseman's the other one I'm kind of concerned. Like if Wiseman plays the backup 5 minutes and Stewart plays the backup 4 minutes, that's where you really start to struggle to find minutes for Asar Thompson and Fontecchio.
We'll be paying attention to Detroit, but let's go over to the Pacers. No Nesmith. He's already been ruled out for this game. So I would assume that if anything, it helps Mathurin with no Nesmith. But I mean, Halliburton, we kind of expect Halliburton to be back to 35 minutes, right? We saw it right before the break where he was playing. Oh, he's questionable and potential limited minutes. But we got back-to-back 34 minutes right there before the break. He's 9,400. He went back over 9K, but if he's back to playing his 35 minutes, like he's a guy that you could easily pay 9,400 for against Detroit. They're going to put up a bunch of points in this game. Siakam's 8,200. I think I'd go down to Turner in this spot. I think it's a really good spot for Miles Turner. Not saying I don't like Siakam. I just think this is a big slate. This game could be a blowout. I think I'm more comfortable with going to Turner. What are your thoughts on the Pacers?
Yeah, Halliburton is the one I have a ton of interest in. I was really hoping we were going to open up the slate and he was going to be sitting there at 9K and it was going to be like a jam him in situation. 9,400, they're going to make us think about it a little bit, but I agree. Really liked what we saw at those last couple of games leading into the All-Star break. Feels like the leash is loosening at minimum. He's going to be in that 34, 36 minute range, hopefully, in this spot, assuming the game is close, but he still has a ton of ceiling at that price. Awesome matchup against Detroit. So I want as much Halliburton as I can fit in. I think he's one of the top spends on the slate. Mathurin at just 4,500 with no Nesmith, I agree is a fantastic play. And then as far as Siakam and Turner go, I'm with you. I'll save the money and go down to Miles Turner. I want to see more ceiling from Siakam, and I know he hasn't played with Halliburton a ton, and maybe that helps him out a little bit here, but I don't think I can play 8,200 for him at this point. Want to see it a little bit first, but I'd be fine taking some shots on Turner at 6,500.
All right, we got New York Knicks at Philadelphia, 226.5 total here. Philly is a 1-point favorite. OG, Randall, and Mitch Robb all still out for the Knicks. Covington, Embiid, Melton still out for Philadelphia. Batum is questionable. Let's go Knicks here first. We saw just DiVincenzo doing his thing before the injury to the hamstring. He was absolutely smashing. I don't necessarily love this matchup. I don't necessarily love the price, and I don't necessarily love that Brunson's back. I mean, a lot of DiVincenzo was Brunson being out, and OG being out, Randall being out. DiVincenzo still has point upside. This game is not going to be like that super fast-paced game that we like to target. I mean, the Knicks are 29th in pace. Philadelphia has been playing a little bit slower without Embiid, so they've dropped to 13th in pace. What, if anything, do we like here for New York?
We know New York's going to play big minutes. Tibbs loves to run his guys out there. Brunson should see close to 40 in this spot, I would think. So he's very much in play. I prefer other guys. Just the matchup against Philly is tough. Like you said, they've slowed down a little bit. Their defense has fallen off, though, as well. So I do have some interest here. DiVincenzo at 7,700. I think that he still has upside at that price. This is a guy who can score 30 actual points with this group of guys. Hartenstein back maybe hurts that a little bit, but we know the starters are playing 35 plus minutes with potential for 40, 42 even in a close game. So the spread is tight. If Philly's going to keep up, then I do have some interest in these Knicks guys that could play big minutes. Josh Hart is the other one. It's at 6,400. I think he's in play. Just does a little bit of everything. Rebounding has been up quite a bit. So some interest in Josh Hart, but I think DiVincenzo and Brunson to a little bit lesser degree.
Do you want to, without looking, do you want to guess what DiVincenzo's point prop is?
20.5.
18.5.
Ooh.
That's
Yeah,
an early. That's an early recommendation. I think I take that one. I
think so too.
I like the over. I think that's too low. I think that even with Brunson out there, I mean, I'd have to obviously go look and see. I know Brunson missed the 8th when they played, but I mean, he's hit this line a ton even with Brunson out there. So I think this line's low. I think I'm gonna bet it.
I'm with you. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's too low. Precious has been playing a ton. Hartenstein coming back, I mean, could potentially hurt that, but he has been playing a lot at the 4. So we could potentially see him kind of in that Julius Randle role. I mean, for the foreseeable future with Randle out. So I don't know if Hartenstein's really going to hurt Precious too much as far as minutes. Production, I think, will hurt a little bit. Josh Hart's been rebounding a lot more.
Yeah, I think who gets the rebounds is going to be the key. Does it hurt Precious? Does it hurt, like, Hartenstein coming back? I think is going to hurt one of Precious or Josh Hart from a rebounding perspective.
I mean, I lean Josh Hart, but I mean, Kelly Oubre is not someone that's going to go in the paint a lot. So I feel like Josh Hart's going to be sitting out at the 3-point line a little bit more in this game, and we're going to see like Precious and Hartenstein, get those rebounds. Like Precious, like Tobias type. So Tobias is going to be in there a little bit. So, yeah, let's move on. Philadelphia side of this game, man, I've been on the fade Tyrese Maxey train at this price. He's been struggling without Embiid. I don't know if I necessarily changed that too much here. Kyle Lowry in the mix for Philadelphia. Like, I don't know if Maxey's minutes are going to change too much, but does that potentially hurt like Buddy Hield a little bit? Or are we just going to see like Kyle Lowry play like a 18, 20-minute role type of, off the bench point guard type role? What do you think here for Philadelphia?
Yeah, the Kyle Lowry thing is definitely a bit of a wrench here. I think he at least sees the non-Maxey point guard minutes. The question is, do they run Lowry at point guard and move Maxey to the 2 and use him more off the ball a little bit? I think that's possible. I'm with you. I don't think it hurts Maxey's minutes whatsoever. He's still going to play his upper 30s. But Lowry's role is definitely intriguing. It could hurt somebody like Buddy Hield. Cameron Payne is the other guy that, I mean, have to imagine he just kind of pretty much goes away here if Lowry's going to be handling the backup point guard. Not sure how much interest they have in running Campaign as a guard off the ball. He can shoot a little bit, but certainly they have guys like Hield and Oubre who can do it a lot better. Another team that's tough to figure out. I don't like the matchup a ton. Maxey up at 9,100. I'm kind of with you on the fade. Just this rotation not being set in stone and Maxey being expensive has struggled a little bit without Embiid and a tough matchup. Probably mostly out on this Philly team. I think I was going to talk up Hield as my favorite play just to save a little bit of money. He's been shooting really well since coming to Philly. But your note on Lowry there, if they run Lowry at the 1 and Maxey at the 2, maybe Hield loses some minutes here. So I have a little hesitation now. But Hield's been good for Philly. I will say that.
What are your thoughts on maybe like a Paul Reed? Like, New York's going to play Precious and Hartenstein 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes apiece. I mean, I feel like Paul Reed, they're going to need his size a little bit in this game. Like, it's not like they're going to play Mo Bamba 30 minutes. They've already proved us that, like, he's kind of capped around 20. Like, they played Paul Reed against Miami, and he got a ton of run against Bam the other night right before the All-Star break. I think he played like 37, 38, 39 minutes. Do we like Paul Reed at 5,900? Do we think he could go like 40-plus here?
Yeah, I don't hate that call. I do think the minutes are pretty secure. Like he's a good per minute producer when he's out there. Yeah, I kind of like that call. Tobias Harris, you just say the name Tobias Harris and everyone says, oh, no ceiling. But that's because he plays next to Joel Embiid often. So like Tobias, we need to think about it in a different light. I don't love that price tag in this matchup.
Right.
If he was like 400, 500 cheaper, I would be all about Tobias in this spot. But 7,900 is just a little bit too rich for me.
I think there's going to be plenty of spots over the next few weeks with Embiid out that we're going to be talking about. Tobias Harris, I just don't think this is one.
Yep.
We got Orlando at Cleveland. 214.5 total. Cleveland is 6.5 point favorite. Fultz is out. Mitchell is questionable. We'll go Orlando first. I'm a Magic fan. Everyone knows I'm a Magic fan by now. If you're new, welcome. Thank you. Hit the subscribe button. Appreciate it. On the Magic side, there's nothing. I mean, Fultz being out matters a little bit. They might start Anthony. They might start Anthony Black. I just don't think I want to touch anything. And like, I love playing Paulo, and I think Wendell Carter's minutes are going to be a lot more solid, and he's 4,900, but gosh, gotta hate this game. Like, this game in general, this has to be like our least favorite game on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, Orlando has a team total of like 104, so it's really tough. The matchup for Wendell Carter is really difficult. I agree that he probably sees a few more minutes here as we head into the second half. I don't love the matchup for Paulo either. I think Franz is my favorite play here, just to save the money down from Paulo. I think Paulo has the better ceiling. But just saving the money to Franz, I think that'd be the way I lean. And I cannot touch the guard situation. Like, even if Cole Anthony sees a bigger role with Fultz out, I just don't feel comfortable with that. And Anthony Black starting, like, he just doesn't do enough. So I'm kind of with you. I'm just tough matchup. I'm out on the Magic side. Maybe some Franz. Yeah,
my large field dart would probably be Jonathan Isaac. They played him 25 minutes against Chicago, and then they had the back-to-back where they limited him 15 minutes per game. I think Jonathan Isaac at 25 minutes is fantastic. I don't know if we necessarily see that, but this dude is one of the most elite defenders in the NBA. I talk about it all the time. When he's 100%, he's probably a top 5 defender in the all of NBA. So in a defensive matchup like this is what this game is. It's two really good defensive teams facing off against each other. And in a game like this, I could see like Isaac playing like 20 to 25 minutes. So
I think that's a great call.
Yeah, I don't mind potentially taking some shots on him. Like, this is a spot where Jonathan Isaac could get 4 to 6 stocks. And I mean, that's enough where you just need him to score some points. So
3,500 too. Like, it doesn't look like there's going to be any type of value down. Like, there's a couple 4K guys that we'll talk about, but 3,500 is going to be tough to find. And I do think we might be a little bit light on his minutes projection right now. I could see him at 22, 25. I'm with you on that.
And Jeff Rowe asked Goga. Goga is out of the rotation right now. They're using Isaac and Mo Wagner. Like, they use Mo Wagner off the bench for like some scoring, and they use Isaac to, kind of cover Mo Wagner's terrible defense. So I just don't think Goga, with everyone healthy, is going to play a lot, if any. Cleveland side of this game, Mitchell matters. I mean, let's start with that. Like, if Mitchell sits, Garland's 5,900. Levert's 4,800. Like, Strus is 4,900. I know it's a terrible matchup against the Magic, but if we do end up getting Mitchell out in this game, Mitchell is someone that plays 35 plus minutes a night. Like, that's a lot of minutes in production, even in a terrible spot. Like, what are our thoughts here? If Mitchell plays, I probably don't play anybody. I'll say that. But if Mitchell sits, Garland, Levert, these guys look juicy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't love the matchup, but if Mitchell is leaving behind his 30% whatever usage rate, that we have to have some interest here. My biggest question is, what does Darius Garland's minute ceiling look like? We saw him touch 30 a couple of times before the break. He had been in that 25 to 30 minutes range for 4 to 6 games, whatever it was there, leading up to the break. But if he could play over 30 in this spot, I have a ton of interest in Darius Garland. I'm going to
stop you really quick. There was a report that came out earlier today that said he is no longer on a minutes restriction.
There you go. I mean, if we're looking at 34 Darius Garland minutes with no Donovan Mitchell, I don't care what the matchup is. With him priced at 5,900, I'd be all over that. I think he'd be one of the more popular players on the slate in that instance. I love the Levert call as well. I think there's room for a ton of usage for him off the bench. He's 4,800. And I think you could even look at a guy like Max Strus or Sam Merrill as minimum price. I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. This is, of course, Mitchell out only, but I think Merrill could step into 18 to 20 minutes, and we've seen him shoot really well in that role. I think there would be enough shots for him to get there at minimum price.
I think, like, overall, if Mitchell sits, you could take some shots here, just in general. Levert would start. It would open up, usage off the bench for Merrill, like you just mentioned. I think that's a great call at 3K. So if Mitchell plays, there's not a ton of value. It's a terrible spot. I do think like if you want to be on the front end of Garland playing 38 minutes, this is probably the best spot to do it. Even if Mitchell plays. So, you could obviously take some shots on him. No minutes restriction for Cleveland usually means 35 plus minutes for Garland and Mitchell. So if Mitchell's out, Garland I think is one of the best plays on the slate. Him and Levert. Levert would slide right into that starting spot next to Garland, and he would play 30 plus minutes at way too cheap. So, all right, I circled this game, Keith. I have this game as the game of the night tonight. We got Phoenix at Dallas, 244 total. Dallas a 2.5-point favorite. Beal is questionable. Lee is out. Exum is out for Dallas, but this should be a fantastic basketball game. A lot of scoring, a lot of pace, a lot of no defense played. Let's be honest. These two teams are bottom half defending teams. So let's go Phoenix first. I mean, is this a spot KD just goes bonkers? Is this a spot Booker just goes bonkers? Who's going to match up against Nurkic? If Beal's out, Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen off, like these guys are cheap. Like I have this game circled as a game I definitely want to be paying attention to on this slate.
Yeah, completely agree. Like they have stars on both sides who could just score in bunches. Neither one of them plays very much defense at all. It's a high total, tight spread. So I completely agree with you. It's a game that we can target for fantasy goodness. The problem is Durant or Booker is always a very difficult decision. I lean Durant in this spot. And then there's not a ton of conviction about it. It's just more of a gut feel than anything. I think Beal is in play as long as he's out there and not restricted at 7,100. We've seen him get enough usage even next to Durant and Booker. I think I would want to get up to one of the two studs first, but I do think Beal is in play. And if Beal sits, then I completely agree with Grayson Allen or even Eric Gordon as well. So it's going to be Durant and Booker, assuming that Beal is in there for me. And I don't have a strong preference. I'll go slightly Durant. But it again, no real conviction there.
Yeah, see, I think I'm on the other side. I think I'm more want to be. I can't talk. I haven't talked for a week. All right, I want to be more invested in Booker. I feel like when we think about Luka or Kyrie guarding Booker, I don't care either one of them. Bring it on.
Yeah, fair point.
So I feel like I want to be more invested in Booker than Durant. But I could see them both smashing in this spot for what it's worth. That one was for you. Who was it in chat? The Ruthless Villain, I think. That was for you. But yeah, overall, I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer to Booker or Durant here, especially if Beal sits. But I think I want to play Booker for what it's worth. He shouldn't have pointed it out. He should know if he's a new listener. Again, welcome, hit subscribe. But if he's been here for a while, he should know me better than that. I am that type of person. But let's go to the Dallas side. Man, Luka's 12-1. And there's not many times that I'm like, hey, do I want to pay 12-1 for Luka? It's averaging 80 fantasy points in 2 outings against this team this year. Again, Kyrie didn't play in either one of those games, but he just kind of shows you his ceiling to the upside for him in this matchup. The biggest question is like Lively is expected to play. Do they start Gafford or do they start Lively? I think that is a first type of question we should be asking ourselves. PJ Washington probably locked into the 4. Tim Hardaway off the bench with Derek Jones now. It's a somewhat new look Mavs team. We have Gafford projected to start, but I don't know necessarily if we should expect that. Like, do we expect Lively just to, kind of step over for Gafford? I don't. I mean, we saw Gafford play 23 minutes against the Spurs the other night when Lively came back and played 17 minutes. I don't think I want to touch this situation. I definitely want to kind of watch what the rotation looks like. And I think I just want to play Kyrie or Luka.
That's the answer.
What are your thoughts on Dallas?
Yeah, Luka is just incredible. We should expect close to 40 minutes, maybe even over 40 minutes in this spot if it stays close. And it's projected to stay close. So anytime that Luka's in a close game, he has a ridiculous ceiling. So I don't care what his price tag is. I'm certainly going to have some. Kyrie's tougher for me. I think you want the game environment. I think this is the game environment where he could really step up and have a good game. So Kyrie, not a guy I love to play, especially when he's 9K, but I do think he's in play in this matchup. Agree with the center situation. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Gafford starts. And I'm not sure I have interest in him even if he does, because Lively's there. Maxi Kleber's still there. Like Gafford's going to get his minutes, I think. But if we're talking about 20, 22 minutes instead of 25, 26, it gets really tough to find a ceiling there. And if Lively starts, I think it's even tougher for him to find 20 plus minutes. So I agree. I think we need to see what this big man rotation looks like. I think Gafford is in it, like he fits really well in this offense, and maybe that means they're pushing Lively to the side. But like you said, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. So let's pay attention to that. See how it works out for this game. Just give me Luka, give me a little bit of Kyrie in this spot.
I think we're going to have value just in general on the slate. So I don't think it'd be hard to fit like a Booker Luka team and just hope this game stays super competitive and close. All right, we got Clippers and Thunder, 236.5 total here. Clippers 2-point favorites. Let's go Clippers first. Nobody on the injury report for this one. Any thoughts on the Clippers?
Tough team to play. It is a nice pace up spot against Oklahoma City. They are solid on the defensive end, but they play really fast. I think Paul George is still on a bit of a minutes restriction, so that basically limits it to Kawhi and Harden for me. I don't feel comfortable about Zubac's minutes really in this spot. It's a great rebounding matchup for Zubac. If I knew he could play 28, 30 minutes in this spot, I would have interest in Zubac. But I think it's just Kawhi and Harden for me, and it's because it's an up-tempo game. I lean slightly to Harden, I think, in this spot. Little revenge narrative there, going back to OKC. But again, it's similar to the Durant Booker situation. It's impossible to know which guy's going to find the ceiling. They're both good plays.
So I'm more curious why you don't think Zubac plays 28 plus minutes here.
He just like they have Plumlee there. He just isn't a guy that they run out there for a ton of minutes often.
Well, I mean, he came back from injury and they were slowly ramping him back up. But the Golden State game right before the All-Star break played 28 minutes. Like,
I worry about him having to follow Chet to the 3-point line is really the main thing. Like if Chet starts getting over on him just by being outside and then either taking him off the dribble or just Zubac not being able to defend the 3-pointer, I think you could see them go with somebody smaller. And not that Plumlee or Tice are that much smaller even, but maybe they just go smaller altogether and run Westbrook out there a little bit more. Chet's just a tough matchup is my biggest concern.
Okay, I was just more curiosity than anything else because I had wrote down Zubac as a potential play here because, I mean, I think it's an interesting spot because I feel like if Chet starts owning Zubac, they're just going to put Kawhi on Chet and like put Zubac over on like a Jalen Williams.
Well, then Jalen Williams is going to start targeting him.
Yeah, well. I mean,
Dort. I think Dort would be the answer, but like again, he has to defend the 3-point line in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, Mason Plumlee is not the guy I'm worried about Zubac losing minutes to in this game.
It's Westbrook is the answer, I think, or
Tice. I think Tice.
Yeah, maybe Tice.
I think Tice would match up better with Holmgren than Plumlee if he starts getting torched. But I don't know, it's tough. I do. Like every time Kawhi is on the floor, I have interest in Kawhi. His ceiling is massive this season. I think this is going to be a close competitive game. Don't mind the James Harden revenge narrative, but James Harden's just been playing great. His price has just climbed up with Paul George's like minutes being limited a little bit. Harden has saw the biggest increase in price. Like Clippers +2 in this game, by the way, but just get used to it down the stretch. I am team Clippers. Very, very big Clippers fan. Thunder side of this one, I mean, SGA definitely seems juicy in this spot outside of, just thinking, not looking at the matchup, just saying, hey, who's going to keep this game close? It'd probably be SGA. He's 10-5. I like guys a little bit more than him, but his ceiling is massive. Kind of going to the conversation we were just having with Zubac, it made me like Chet a little bit in this spot. Yeah. I feel like they don't really have that like perfect answer to match up with Chet. What are your thoughts on the Thunder?
Yeah, as we were talking through those defensive matchups, I also started getting a lot of interest in Chet. I think he could have a lot of open looks on the perimeter in this spot. SGA is always great. He obviously has the most ceiling. I don't love the matchup, though. The Clippers have played great defense, so maybe saving a little bit of money going down to Chet is the play. Jalen Williams probably gets Kawhi on the other side, or even Paul George, both outstanding defenders. So tough spot for Jalen Williams. I think Chet might be my preferred play here on the Oklahoma City side. Of course, I'll have a little bit of SGA. I generally make about 20 lineups, and there's not really a slate I ever just don't have at least one of SGA. He's been awesome.
My other question really quick on the Thunder is Gordon Hayward is probable. He's been out since like the day after Christmas, so I don't expect him to play like full minutes. But who does he affect? Is it Dort? Is it Giddey?
It's Giddey.
Yeah, I feel like it's Giddey too. Like, I don't think I want to play Gordon Hayward because I don't think he plays full minutes here. Unless there's a report that comes out saying that he will play full minutes and he'll start. Like, if we get a starting lineup of like Hayward over Giddey and no minutes restriction mentioned, like 5,400 is probably too cheap for Hayward playing with SGA. Like, you got to remember who he's playing with now. So, I think Giddey is the guy we kind of want to stay away from until we see what this Gordon Hayward minute situation is going to look like. I just wanted to bring that up because
good point.
In my head, I keep forgetting that Hayward is on the Thunder, and he's not on the injury report. Boston at Chicago, 226.5 total. Boston 7.5 point favorite. Springer is questionable, and on the Chicago side, Craig and Williams out. I'm not going to mention, for what it's worth, like Levine and these guys, Ball. They're out for the season. They're on the injury report for the year. Let's go Celtics first in this matchup. Pace-wise, not the best game, right? Pace-wise, we got, Chicago Bulls play at the slowest pace in the NBA. Boston plays at the 19th pace in the NBA. Boston's third in defensive rating. They're a great defensive team. Anything that we like here for the Celtics?
Not a ton. Like you mentioned, the slow pace. I also think Chicago is going to have a difficult time keeping up in this game. The spread's not massive by any means, but Boston is one of the best teams in the league, and Chicago is absolutely not. Can't believe they did not make a move at the trade deadline to sell off some of these pieces. I'll take some Tatum for the ceiling. I think Jaylen Brown at 7,500 is interesting. Even Porzingis, it's max one of those guys for me, and it's just hoping to find the guy that goes off. I don't love this game overall, but there's certainly ceiling to be found amongst the three studs there.
I think the price on Jaylen Brown is really nice.
Yeah.
He's like right below the top tier in that like mid-tier-ish range, and he's easily a guy that can put up 50. So he's probably my favorite play from Boston. Like, I'm not Mr. Eyes over here, but if I was running 20 entry max, like he would definitely be the guy I'd have the most exposure to on Boston today.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The price stood out to me as well. Like he's typically in the 8K range, like between 79 and 8,200. 7,500 is a nice price. Agreed.
All right, I'm gonna throw another like trade deadline at you. They brought in Tillman. Do we think Tillman affects Horford? Do we think he affects Porzingis? I just don't see him taking Porzingis like off his normal minutes. Like, is Tillman a way to get Horford some minutes at the 4 and let Tillman play backup 5, and Tatum get to play more at the 3 with Horford's on the floor and when Brown's sitting? Like, they spread out Brown and Tatum quite a bit anyway. But like, do we think like, if anything, do we see like Tatum having more upside because he's going to get to play the 3 a little bit more?
I think Tillman is just an upgrade over Luke Cornett. Like Tillman just plays the backup 5 exclusively.
Yeah.
I think Horford's going to have a hard time finding any more than like 25 minutes. I don't think it affects guys like Tatum, Porzingis, Brown. Tillman's a Cornett replacement more than anything.
Yeah, I was just thinking like more of like Tatum getting to play the 3 a little bit more. That was my thoughts. Like, think about this matchup just in general, right? Like, if he gets to play the 3, he's getting like Caruso. Like, that is a mismatch. I mean, DeRozan is probably a mismatch too, but
Yeah, I'd rather have DeRozan on him than Caruso.
Good old DeMar DeRozan, baby. All right, let's talk the Bulls side of this one. Gosh, man, I like Kobe White and I like AU, but I don't like the matchup.
Yeah, very difficult matchup. I have concerns the Bulls can keep up in this one. Like, there's just Vooch is cheap, but I don't like that matchup. I think Tillman there, even backing up Porzingis, makes it even more difficult matchup. Like, Vooch's price is standing out. I think Kobe White probably has the most ceiling on this team at this point, which is crazy to say, but it's probably true. I just don't love the matchup against Boston. Dosunmu's been playing a bunch of minutes, but the price is kind of corrected now. So in this matchup, I don't think I'm going there. Kind of just off this Bulls team in general.
Kind of off this Bulls team in general too. Houston at New Orleans, 227.5 total. New Orleans is a 6.5 point favorite on the Houston side. Eason remains out. Bullock is questionable on the Pelican side. Ingram is questionable and Zeller is questionable. We talked about Mitchell impacting the slate. Well, Brandon Ingram missing this game would matter a lot for the slate in general. Both of these guys are illness questionable, so we'll see if they're at shoot around or not. Let's go Houston first. Any interest here in the Rockets?
Man, Fred VanVleet coming back. They picked the wrong game because I don't like the matchup against the Pelicans, but you've made the point on this podcast a couple of times. Amen Thompson really impacted Alperen Şengün's ceiling because Thompson's an awesome rebounder, and Şengün gets there a lot of times with his double-doubles, and that includes 10 rebounds, which he was struggling to get. In a different matchup, I would be jamming Alperen Şengün, but I just like the Pelicans are really solid. Jovel and Zion on the other side. I wish it was a better matchup because I think Şengün's role is going to grow in this spot. I just don't know if it's the spot for me to take a shot on that knowledge. I'm concerned that Fred VanVleet doesn't play his typical 38, 39 minutes, and we see him in the low 30s. So it makes it a really difficult team to play. I still think Şengün's my favorite play. I wish this was a better spot for him because I would be jamming a ton of Şengün.
Yeah, great defenses, both sides. Good rebounding. Man, we got like 2 or 3 games where we got to take Şengün's under on his rebounds, and it was great. I expect his rebound chances to go up. They still are down a little bit with like Smith on the floor too, but I mean, we're seeing books already at 8.5 on Şengün's rebound, where we were taking the under at 9.5, 10.5. So they're definitely adjusting a little bit. I mean, at this point, we might be able to take the over, but the juice isn't great. But I don't have a ton of interest here in the Rockets. If anything, maybe VanVleet or like you said, Şengün, but like VanVleet at 6,700, there's upside in that price. Like this is a guy that's most of the time in the mid sevens. So he's someone that can score 40 plus fantasy points in a matchup, but I don't love the game just in general here. Don't love the game. Pelican side of this one, Brandon Ingram matters for sure. If Brandon Ingram ends up sitting in this game, McCollum at 7K is nice. Zion at 7,800 is nice. I still worry about like Valanciunas' minutes just in general. I would assume they start Trey Murphy, and he's like 4.8K if Ingram sits. If Ingram plays, it's probably just maybe a little bit of exposure to like Zion or a little bit of exposure to like Ingram, and that's really it for me on the Pelican side.
Yeah, if Ingram's there, Zion is really the only interest I have. Maybe a sprinkle of Ingram as well, but out pretty much on the rest of the team. This Valanciunas, why am I losing his name all of a sudden? Larry Nance thing that they've been doing is just it's impossible to figure out. So I think I'm gonna give up on trying to figure out how many minutes Larry Nance is gonna play. It's never gonna happen. Just when we think he's taking on the bigger role, he plays 18 minutes. So it's Zion for me. If Ingram is in, Zion is one of the best plays on the slate. If Ingram is out, McCollum would get a nice bump as well, and Trey Murphy would be the guy to target, who should step into a larger role as well. Don't have much else to add other than that.
Yeah, I mean, are they just trying to keep Valanciunas healthy for the playoffs? Are we going to see like 30-minute Valanciunas when the playoffs roll around, or is like this how they want to approach it? They want to play both these guys. I don't know.
I don't know either.
We'll have to see. Playoff time would be interesting. All right, we got Charlotte at Utah. Just kidding. 231 total. Utah 10-point favorite in this one. Ball and Williams out for Charlotte. Porter out for Utah. He's not with the team. All right, let's go Charlotte first. I mean, this is a game that I think we want to target as far as like pace. The pace of this game should be fantastic. I mean, we got the ninth fastest pace in the league with the Jazz, and then defensive wise, Charlotte's the worst team in the league defensively. Utah's 25th. So what are we playing here from Charlotte?
I love this game. I think there's a little blowout risk, obviously, as there always is with Charlotte, but they've looked like a much more competent team since these trades. Just bringing in a couple of veterans like Grant Williams, Seth Curry, Davis Bertans, like they're just a much more complete team. So I feel like they can stay in this game. Going into Utah is obviously never an easy task, one of the more difficult places to play, but the game environment is what I have a ton of interest in. Utah doesn't play a ton of defense. I think Trey Mann is my favorite play here just because the price hasn't quite fully adjusted to his role here. 5,500 should see 30 minutes in this spot. Miles Bridges has had a bunch of ceiling here without LaMelo, and Brandon Miller has found ceiling every once in a while as well. So in this matchup, I don't know if I want to play more than like two of these guys together, but I have a big interest in all three of those guys. Grant Williams has had an awesome role also at 4,500. And then I'm not even sold that Micic can't get there at 3,900. If the game does get out of hand a little bit, maybe Micic ends up playing a few extra minutes. Like that's a cheap price tag, and he does a little bit of everything when he's out there. So I have a lot of interest in this game. I'll be heavily exposed to the Charlotte side.
Really like Grant Williams, and I really like Trey Mann. I think Grant Williams is way underpriced. Way underpriced. Like for his current role, he's kind of playing like that PJ Washington role where he's getting like 28 to 35 minutes, and he's just too cheap. So Grant Williams is not someone that like we're always excited to play, but I think his role at 4,500, I think he's going to end up being like one of the chalkiest players on the entire slate. And I really like Trey Mann. He's been absolutely crushing. So
I'm looking at his projection. If his projection holds where it's at, he's not going to be chalky. But I agree. Like we were talking about it with Fontecchio, right? These guys are in new situations, new roles. We're taking like season-long rates when we're doing projections. So there are exploitable situations. Grant Williams is definitely one of those exploitable situations where his projection might come in a little bit low today.
Yeah, but he played 3 games with Charlotte, 32, 31, 27 minutes, and at least 27 fantasy points in each of those 3 games. So
there's a guy in the next game who's got a new role too that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, there might be a Grant Williams take on Morning Grind game. Utah side of this one. I mean, the thing that I've pointed this out a lot when it comes to Utah in general like right before the All-Star break, but they are committed to Keontae George getting minutes now. Like he is going to play minutes every single night in the 30s for down the stretch. I might be wrong 1 or 2 nights, but I think Keontae George's role is just phenomenal. Obviously, Markkanen has upside. I think Sexton's upside is limited with Keontae George because Keontae George is more usage than like a Chris Dunn or Clarkson. What are your thoughts on the Jazz?
Yeah, we were just talking about new roles. Keontae George, another guy, he has a completely different role than he had 6 games ago or something like that. Ever since they made those trades, so George is one of the best values on the slate. I think Markkanen definitely has ceiling. Love the matchup for him against Charlotte. Walker Kessler, another guy with a new role, should see minutes in that like 25 to 28 range. He hasn't really broken out, but I mean, Charlotte is always a team we like to target centers against. So I have a ton of interest in Walker Kessler. I have chased that the last couple of games right before the break, and it didn't work out. But I mean, Kessler is a guy we would love to play at this price last season. So I think he's getting that role back. I understand that John Collins is still there, and Collins has been playing really well. But I feel like Kessler could absolutely crush 5,100, especially in a matchup against Charlotte.
I will note, because when we were doing the podcast last week, somebody was asking me, do we want to still play centers against Charlotte? The answer is yes. We still want to play big men against Charlotte. The rebounding for Charlotte is still bottom 10. It's a little bit better than it was. We'll just say that. It's a little bit better than it was. It's still not great. So I think we'll obviously keep watching the trends on like how different the rebounding is going to be with Nick Richards, Miles Bridges, Grant Williams type players, Bertans, like you mentioned. But I think we still, at this point, want to play big men against Charlotte. So, all right, we finish out the slate. Washington at Denver, 231 total. Denver is a 15-point favorite in this game, and I don't think that number is too crazy. Livers is out for Washington. Strother is out for Denver. Let's start with Washington here first. What do we like here for the Wizards?
Blowout is obviously a concern, but the guy I was talking about with the new role is Denny Avdia has been playing upper 30s minutes, and he's shooting a ton recently. He's rebounding a ton recently. The price is coming up right with it because he's been absolutely smashing, and he scored 70 DK points in the last game. Kyle Kuzma was out. Don't expect that level of production, but like he's consistently hitting 40, 45 DK points in this new role that he's been playing upper 30s minutes. The rebounding looks awesome without Daniel Gafford. That's the biggest change. Like Bagley is not the rebounder that Gafford was. So it makes sense to me that Avdia has seen a huge increase in his rebounding rate here recently. The price at 6,800 feels uncomfortable, but I think he's still underpriced, especially if he's going to keep shooting at the rate that he has. Avdia is my main target here. I think Bagley is in play. I think the minutes are a little bit concerning there, and I think potential foul trouble with Jokic on the other side is a little bit concerning. So I do prefer Avdia, but I don't mind Bagley. And I think Tyus Jones is in play as well at 6,100. Has seen his minutes tick up a little bit here recently.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this. Denny's role has changed. And I wrote this up on Scores and Odds last week, and this didn't include the New Orleans game, so it probably just went up. But on the season, he was averaging 4.2 points in the paint on the season. Over the last 4 games or 3 games, the Dallas, Philadelphia, Boston game, he was averaging 12.6 points in the paint. Like it had gone up 8 points. He's being way more aggressive just in general. And I mean, I'm back on it. I've already bet this. I'm on his point rebound prop again. I mean, his point rebound prop is 22.5. He's hit that with points alone in 3 of the last 4 games. He's hit this line 4 straight games since his role has changed, but he's hit the point rebound prop with just points in 3 of his last 4 games at 22.5. So I already bet this one. It's not on my morning grind game. If it's Keith, I'm sorry.
It might be on mine.
I just wanted to point it out again. Like he's just not the same player he was, a week before the trade deadline. I mean, he is a different role, and this is the stuff we have to take advantage of for DFS, and this is the stuff we have to take advantage of in the betting markets, and they're just not adjusting fast enough. Like they adjusted to Grant Williams. I was looking at his lines earlier. Like Grant Williams is like his point prop is like 12.5. So they adjusted very fast to like somebody like him, but yeah, they didn't. They haven't adjusted Denny, and I'll keep betting it. That's fine. I'm a little worried about the blowout, but I still think he plays 30 minutes, which gives him a good chance for the 22.5. But yeah, he's my favorite play on this team as well. Tough spot for Bagley, but I don't mind him. I think he's still a little cheap at 5,300.
Yep.
I'm not touching Tyus or Poole. And I'm honestly like Kuzma's upside has been hurt a little bit by Denny too. So I think it's Bagley and Denny, and like Kuzma is getting hurt rebounding from Bagley too. He's a better rebounder. Denver side of this game, if it stays close, Jokic probably smashes. Jamal Murray has a little bit of upside. I don't think this game stays too close where like Jokic has a ceiling game, and I think I want to play Luka over Jokic today. And that's all it is. Like no one is going to sit here and say, hey, don't play Luka or don't play Jokic. I'm just saying I think I'd prefer Luka today if it's just a 1v1 situation.
I'm with you on that. I do prefer Luka. I think it's an awesome spot for Jokic. Washington's still one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. But I think it's a better spot for Luka, and I do worry about the blowout as well in this game. So probably won't have a ton of exposure. Same story with Jamal Murray. Of course, there's ceiling there, but just because we're adding in the blowout aspect to a 10-game slate where it's already tough to play everybody, probably won't have much Jamal Murray, and I just don't have any interest in anybody else outside of Jokic and Murray.
Get a chat question about centers doing well against Denver in general. I mean, if we look at recent trends over the last 7 games, they're allowing the 3rd most fantasy points per game to opposing centers. So if you want to look at like recent trends, sure. I mean, there's definitely some recent trends there. They're like middle of the road season stats. They're like 8th over the last 15 games. So like they're trending in the right directions to take centers. So maybe Bagley is way more in play than that. But yeah, right now, last 7 games, Denver allows the 3rd most fantasy points per game to opposing centers. So there you go. Hope that answers your question, Derek. All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. It's fun to be back. We appreciate you guys hanging out on YouTube. We got a very lively chat going on over there tonight on YouTube, and we always appreciate it. It's fun. Always fun. Favorite play under 5K to go 7X? Who do you got?
I will go with Keontae George, the starting point guard for the Jazz. Awesome matchup for him against Charlotte. Just talked about his new role. Price hasn't quite adjusted yet.
He's under 5K?
Yep, 4,700.
Oh my gosh, I missed that one. He would have been mine for sure, like 100%, and we would have agreed 100%. I missed that one. I thought he was over 5K. Way too cheap for Keontae George's new role. Grant Williams is mine. I really like Grant Williams. I think that he has a very solid role. Like I said, I think he's playing that like PJ Washington role for Charlotte, and like it's not even PJ Washington too. It's like Gordon Hayward's gone. There's plenty of minutes to be had for Grant Williams, so I really like him at 4,500 as my 7X play. Over 8K to go under 5X. We have a ton of value and a ton of studs. Who's the bust that you don't want to play today over 8K?
Yeah, a lot of good studs today. I'm going to go Tyrese Maxey at 9,100. The Knicks are still short a couple of people, but just Maxey doesn't have Embiid there. New bodies, new rotation. I think there's going to be some chemistry issues to work out. So give me Maxey in a tougher matchup against the Knicks.
I hate choosing against this guy because he's been one of my favorite players to watch this year. But give me Scotty Barnes at 8,800. I like Scotty Barnes, and I think he has 60-point upside in any matchup. He's just a guy that I don't think I'm going to get to today. Paulo was my other one. I just can't pick against my guy. I can't pick against my guy. Favorite 6X play today. Who do you got?
I'm going to go Denny Avdia. I believe in this new role here. It's not an awesome matchup against Denver. There's blowout risk, but I want to be early on this and think that we've found a trend here. So I'm going to go right back to Denny.
I got Trey Mann. I think that Trey Mann is still underpriced for his current role. Again, like we're seeing a great matchup against Utah. This game pace-wise should be fantastic. Like it's a pace-up spot for Charlotte. Trends definitely point to Charlotte playing a little bit faster with their new look roster. So I like Trey Mann here at 5,500. All right, let's get weird GPP play of the day. Who do you got for us?
So I'm sticking with the same team there. Mann's role has been incredible. It looks like he's the guy, but I think Micic behind him still has a really solid role there. He's only 3,900. I don't know how much under 4K value we're going to have on the slate. I don't mind a couple of stabs there. I think he might get a little extra run in a blowout as well. The game environment against Utah is great. So give me Micic at 3,900.
All right, so I wrote down Cade Cunningham, and I'll let you void it if you think he's going to be chalkier than a Let's Get Weird play. But I don't think Cade Cunningham's going to come over 10% on this slate, and I absolutely love this matchup for him.
I think it's a big enough slate where I think he'll be. I don't think he'll be 4%, but I think he will be under 10%. Yes.
Yeah, I think the price is going to scare some people off enough where we could take advantage of it. So, I mean, Cade Cunningham's my Let's Get Weird GPP play of the day. Cade never chalky. I agree. He's someone that goes overlooked a lot, and he's a guy that can put up 25 or 50. And I just hope we're on the right page tonight when it comes to Cade Cunningham. Let's go to the betting portion of the morning grind game. Any pick'em plays or player props that you like here?
So the one I do, in fact, have written down is Denny Avdia over 22.5 points and rebounds. Completely with you. The books are just slow to adjust. The role has increased since the trade of Daniel Gafford. The minutes have skyrocketed as well. So Denny is a smash over 22.5 points and rebounds. The other one that we talked about that I absolutely love is Dante DiVincenzo over 18.5 points. Gave that one out earlier as well. I'm definitely getting right back on board that one.
Yeah, so mine today is Trey Mann over 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. His points and rebounds and assists have been fantastic since he's gotten into this new role. He's played 3 games now with Charlotte, 22, 27, and then he had a big game against Atlanta right there before the break. This is a fantastic game pace-wise. Trey Mann over 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I think that number is just too low. I think his new role is phenomenal, and I mean, it's hard not to like Trey Mann. The only time he missed this was his first game, and he was at 22. So Trey Mann over 23.5 points, rebounds, assists. Any lines jump out to you here?
I'm just not sure the Philadelphia 76ers are any good without Joel Embiid. And the Knicks, they're missing some bodies as well, but they're 1-point underdogs against Philly. It's in Philly. But their money line is like 102, I think is the best you can get at. Might be an even still out there somewhere. I think the Knicks are better than Philly without Joel Embiid. So I do like the Knicks side, whether you want the point or just take the money line.
I actually like a line today. I always say that there's not a lot that jumps out to me, but I really like Boston minus 7.5. I know they're on the road in Chicago. Boston's a much better team just overall. When you look at like net rating, Boston is the number one team in the NBA in net rating this season. Chicago's 20th, and they're not getting any better. They're 26 and 29. Boston has been one of the best teams in the league all season. They're a fantastic team. They're fully healthy. Everyone's good to go. Porzingis, they're fully healthy for this game. Give me Boston minus 7.5. I think this closes closer to 9, even with Boston on the road. I think this line moves a little bit today. All right, Keith, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
NBA is back.
Yeah.
MLB spring training kicking off this weekend with the games. I'm down here in Phoenix, so I'll definitely be getting out to a bunch of those. And don't forget about those NASCAR streets, because there's this guy over here to my left, whatever side that is. Yeah. He's pretty good at those NASCAR stuff. So probably check out his package and listen to what he has to say about the races.
Yeah, I'm about to dig into some NASCAR for early week bets right now, right when we get done. So appreciate the kind words. Thank you, everybody, for all the kind words in chat. We're going to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow talking more hoops. Good luck, everyone. Have a good